Although we covered a lot about the classes, but still, I thought let's again do a movie about the properties that we have in the classes. Now in the Swift, this is not all about declaring a var property or a let property. It really goes beyond that. And some of them are stable yet, but some of them needs a lot of work. So definitely Swift is going to update a little bit more, and that is what we are expecting. So let's talk about how we have. Now don't look at this function right now. Start from the line number 9. So we are defining a class that says area calculator, and first talking about the properties, the basic difference that we have is a stored property, and then we have got computed properties. Also, we have got some properties like class level properties, the lazy properties, and a bit more. So let's not just focus on all of them at once. Let's try to have a look on stored as well as computed properties. Now, stored properties are really simple. They just say that you can define us with var or with just let. Again, it doesn't do anything. It just says I am a storing variable. I just store the values and that's it. But for example, let's say somehow we decided that we want to do some internal calculation based on the data that we already have in the stored properties. Now, taking again that same data is not at all a wise choice. So what you want to do some internal calculation based on the stored properties. And this is how we do it. So here at the line number 23, you can see we have got a var area. And after that, I have used a getters and setters. Now, the getters and setters are again a part of the computed properties. You can see I have a get method which just gets the values and it calculates. So I would say whenever you see a get, it is really common to see a return value out here because this is calculating a value, and obviously once we calculate the value, we want to return that value on to the users or to the users. So this is how we do it. Now setters are again important, but not that much use. We simply have a setters simply just to set the value. Let's say we want to create an array or maybe a dictionary based on these already existing values, then we use the setters. And most of the time it is being used to convert from, let's say there is a lot of integers and I want to convert them into the dictionaries. That would be a great choice to have the setters. But in case you don't have a setter, if I just delete that, now this will make this get as a read-only property. So this is also quite common. And also you will see one more thing, that a lot of time what people like to do is somewhat they like to delete all of this. And you might have seen this. I have been doing this in one of the movie back out there. So if I delete this particular part out here, you'll see that this is a very, very common. Let me get rid of this guy out there, and we don't need that. So this is again quite a common one. We don't need this one also. If I save that, now this is also a quite common one. And in fact, I have been doing this in one of the previous movie, and we did this something like that. So again, these are the part of the computed properties, and it is so common that sometimes we like to do that. Now let me get back again on what we have and where we were. So it's good, and save that. So this is all about the computed and the stored properties. But again, now let me give you a simple example. Let's say we are creating an instance or simply an object from this particular class. Every instance will have its separate copy of the length and the separate copy of width. But let's say we want to define a variable which is common across all the objects that are being instantiated by the same class. That's simply saying that we want to change a particular value and the change is being displayed onto all of the classes. Then this is somewhat we make a class level properties. So let's say I am having a var, and let's just say we are trying to have a double maker. This double maker just simply onto saying that what it does, it just doubles all the value, randomly saying that. So I have a float, and I'll again use the same syntax that I have been using out here. I quite like of that. So I'll just say return, and it will just return a 2.0. Now this is a common. Now this is just simply a variable double maker. So if I'll create an instance from this class and I use a double maker, so everywhere the 2.0 is going to be replicated. Now what I want to do, I want to make a change. So if I make a change out here, the change is not going to display it on every instantiated just like that, because it has created its own copies. But what I can do, I can create a class level out here by simply having a class. And here it goes, but it is going to pop an error in just a moment. If I save that, and notice that it hasn't because I have actually gone around. But usually what happens is you'll see this quite a lot. And this is the syntax, which is a workaround, but usually it goes something like this. And I just simply say var double, and I'll just add a y just to have that. And I'll simply say that it is going to be a float. And I would like to have a value of equals to, let's say, 3.0. So it really looks good at this moment, but when I add a class out there, it gives a problem. Now, this is what I was expecting. An update in the Swift hasn't got any update because the error says the class stored properties not yet supported by the class. And it says, did you mean static? No, I don't mean by static. I simply, yes, again, we can put a keyword like static and it can serve the purpose. But what I wanted to talk about is the class level properties. So go ahead and try to read a little bit about, but don't worry, I'll cover that later in the later section when we will implement the things. So this was all about the class level properties, and you can simply access that. Now, how to access the class level properties? That also important thing. Now, in order to access the class level properties, what you need to do, you cannot actually instantiate it directly. You need to say something like this: area calculator, that is the class name. And if I put a dot, it now shows me the double maker. So this is how you access the class level properties. Okay, one thing done with the class level properties. Now let's talk about the lazy guys. This is lazy property. Now, lazy property is a different concept out there in the Swift. Now what it says, there are many times in the Swift or the application, what we want to do is we do not want to instantiate all the properties in a single object all at once. Sometimes the instantiated property of an object is dependent on something else. Like for example, we are having a get random tensile, which is a tensile strength in the architectures out there. So we are not sure that every time we are going to get this or every time we are going to need that. And whenever an object is being created, all of its properties are simply assigned to that. So what it says that if you're really not sure that you are going to use that, then simply you can put a keyword lazy behind that. So this is how you do. Now, a lot of application and games are there which uses the facility of similar to that. So let's have a look on that. Now, enough of talk about that, but one thing I would like to also again mention that class level methods only access the class level properties. That means, yes, you can name any of the properties out there as a simple class as well. That also works. But again, class level method can only access the class level properties. With that, now it's quite a good talk. Now let's move on to the next movie.